Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Energy Speaks Back, powered by B2B Energy. My name is Paul Webb, and I'm the founder of B2B Energy, and I'm also your host. Weekly, I present to you energy experts from around the world. Welcome to episode 114. Our purpose, as always, is to provide a good understanding of energy management knowledge from around the world, which is available today for us to deliver savings that impact on our planet. We would like to thank Esther Energy, who are our certificate partners. My guest today is a seasoned sustainability professional who has built a strong reputation as a trusted advisor to executive leadership and boards in large, complex organizations. So without any further ado, I give you Shahid Naeem. Good afternoon and good evening. And I'm getting all my time zones mixed up already. So it's good evening from myself and it's good afternoon. Shahid, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Paul.
Brilliant. And I'm guessing you're from Toronto area. What's the weather like there? Cold, hot, warm was for this time of year?
Well, it's kind of coming to springtime, 70 degrees Celsius, rainy. So I would imagine it's very similar to the weather you're having in London.
Right. We're having a lot of rain at the moment. Every now and then the sun comes out, but it's definitely, I don't think I've ever seen 1 month the same year on year. Currently, it's constantly changing. Are you noticing changes where you are?
Yes, definitely, especially in the work that I do with energy management and buildings. Particularly in the last 10 years or so, we've had some of the hottest years
Mm,
on record. And that's definitely changed the expectations of the folks in our buildings for the summer, a lot more a requirement for air conditioning and so forth.
yeah.
And and some of the forecasts that you see moving out 10, 20 years, they basically say that this area, the Greater Toronto area, it's going to change the climate zone. It's going to move one climate zone on the warmer end.
Yeah.
So lots of changes in climate.
It's quite funny because as you just said that, it just triggered. So just this afternoon, we were working with one of our organizations and we were setting up some monitoring for some chillers because we're doing a chiller project. Significant amounts of money have been invested in it. And the client wanted to know whether we could measure the chiller control because we've got various different meters, whether we can measure how the chiller's performing going forward. And I said, very easy. We can run last year's report and show last year's data of how the chiller run compared to this year. And he goes, oh, that's strange. Has the work started already? And I went, no, the work hasn't started already. And when we looked at it, it's because we haven't had any heat really this year. And it hasn't been that warm. So the chillers are running less than they were last year. So we're already making the savings. So we really need, and I really believe that we have to normalize data all the time and always compare it against degree day. Because if we don't, then obviously how can we prove that we're making these savings? Because the system's already making the savings and we haven't, and the client hasn't even spent the money on it yet. Shahid, we've met through LinkedIn and we're talking offline and you follow me on, and you're interested in some of the stuff I've been talking about. So I've learned a little bit about yourself through our correspondence, but for the benefit of our audience today, can you tell us about yourself and your background story, your origin story, how you got into energy management?
Yeah, I think the first thing you should probably know is a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about. It comes from my experience, from my perspective of working for large institutions
Mm-hmm.
in energy management and sustainability. So I think you will see that perspective of a building owner seep through in this conversation. But in terms of the origin story, I, it really comes from my belief that our values drive our behavior, and uh, sustainability as a value of meeting the needs of today without compromising the needs of future generations to meet theirs is, to my mind, a fundamentally higher value because it transcends time and space and my individual life. I come from a family of engineers. My father was an engineer, my brother's an engineer. So I really never was in no two minds about the career path around energy that I was going to take. And I worked a little bit in power generation, just like yourself, more on the gas side, gas power
Right.
generation,
Okay.
and went to graduate engineering school. And essentially, I found myself just around the global financial crisis about 15 years ago, doing energy retrofits in institutional buildings. And at that time, there were lots of stimulus funded work going on to try and get Canada moving out of the recession we were in.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, at that time, 15 odd years ago, building management systems and these energy retrofits were not very common. And I really got into this thing, leading those projects around building management systems, putting in place technology which allowed building owners to manage large portfolios of a centralized control. You
Right.
can schedule your automation, your systems,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
save some energy and some greenhouse gas emissions. And then I found that the real challenge of getting these systems to achieve their intended performance actually comes once the project is done. And in getting the building operators and the maintenance techs to actually use these systems,
Yeah.
because they would put it on bypass since it's a change management, something
Mm-hmm.
different than what they've been doing in the past.
Yeah.
In some cases, over a career lifetime for some people. So in trying to convince them, I really got into training and some of the social gamification and influence in trying to nudge people into using these technologies and to try and get the maximum benefits out of these smart technologies.
Right.
So that's kind of set me on my journey of energy management. I moved on to a large research intensive, energy intensive university.
Mm-hmm.
I was the energy manager for a campus, which is kind of like a small city, looking after the capital aspect of looking for new technologies that would help reduce our energy consumption costs and carbon footprint, and also the ongoing operational aspect day to day of procuring energy, producing heating, cooling, lighting service for the campus. And now I work at Canada's second largest school board, where I serve about 155,000 students daily
Right.
and a workforce of 60,000 people at a portfolio of about 20.5 million square feet. And over the last few years, we've reduced our carbon footprint by 38%.
Wow.
And we've achieved the second lowest annual utilities cost per square foot for our peer comparator 72 other school boards in
Right.
Ontario. And when I
What?
say
What?
utilities,
Sorry, Shahid.
sorry,
What age group is that? The schools?
so they come in all ages. The average age would be somewhere around 40 years of the the building life cycle of a
No,
portfolio.
the pupils, the students. How old are the students?
Okay, to 12. So right
Sorry, 4 to
from
12. Right.
yeah, kindergarten to grade 12.
Right.
Uh,
That's
that's the
amazing.
standard not. And
Because they're not easy buildings to look after, are they?
well, it's these are buildings where we try and engage our students as well. So that
Fantastic.
is something
Do
that
you know what? I was really hoping you was going to say that, because that really is music to my ears when you say getting the students engaged.
exactly, and that's kind of what the opportunity is. I know you're a big fan of measurement and verification and metering and so on, and we have put in those projects to
Mm.
have metering at every single building uh, because that is the only way my team and I we could do our job. Without data, you're blind.
Yeah.
And we've metered every single one of our 270 odd buildings, and it's helped us tremendously in terms of making sure that our buildings are are achieving the potential that they're supposed to as a result of our projects, daily alarms, and so on.
Yeah.
But we've also done is turn those into tools of education. And that is what I believe energy management can help organizations be the best they can be
Yeah.
in terms of we are a school board, so our purpose is to provide education. So we've had made access to these real-time meters, interval meters. I think the relevant term in the UK is half-hourly metering data. We get 5 to 12, 15-minute interval data,
Right.
but really we make that data available to our students. And they have workshops on them, projects on them. We teach them to be energy managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you Google it, you'll probably find some workshops on YouTube on some of the things that we've made available to our students for, because these are really the experiential learning skills of the future.
Yeah.
And almost every student, I think it's an intuitive thing that when they see, for example, the solar panel on their school's rooftop start generating power at 9 in the morning when the sun comes out, like 7,
Mm-hmm.
8, 9 o'clock in the morning, the profile picks up, and later on in the day, the profile drops again. Then they can see in real time the power generation from their school and the impact of initiatives that they do in those schools. That is very powerful in terms of experiential education
Yeah.
and helping us be a better school board.
And what is the buy-in from the students? Did you get a big buy-in from them? Are they taking over?
It's tremendous. So over the last year or so, we've had uh, thousands of students sign up for this thing.
Wow.
It's really the place we're at really is that we have these technologies, but these technologies have to be communicated in the right fashion. You
Yeah.
have to have lesson plans. So we are developing teachers now.
Yeah.
So we have teacher workshops on how they could use this data and build lesson plans around it or programs around it. And so far, it's been mostly on the high school side,
Mm-hmm.
on more advanced students. But I've had the pleasure of going into grade 5 classes
Yeah.
to explain to the students why didn't this school qualify for a solar panel, and to try and explain to them that it's the intricacies of grid connection and fault tolerance in the grid and so on. But that gives you a sense of some of the interest from students. And I would say actually students get this thing even more than adults
100%. Yeah.
because I get letters from students. Recently, I got a letter from a grade 4 class, and the students wrote to me with the help of their teacher and asking us to look at energy efficient lighting, LEDs, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So the students had counted off the lighting fixtures in their school. And they were like, if you turn these lights off, or you can de-lamp some, or, you could put some new lighting fixtures in
Yeah.
there, that would help you save energy. That would help you save costs. And that would help you save the environment.
Fantastic. I'm amazed that this is happening. It's my dream that this happens around all the schools. And you seem to be, and I always hear many sort of other of my colleagues, they talk about this. And do you get the parents coming in and saying they're doing this at home as well?
We do support some of these programs, but overall, I find our students to be the most engaged in this work,
Yeah.
and actively looking for ways to contribute. So there's a lot of hunger, so to speak, amongst the younger generation. They get this thing, like, that's the kind of stuff that you and I and folks like us have been talking for many, many decades.
Mm.
Save money, save the environment, and these students just get it intuitively.
Yeah. When so we're talking about all ages. Is there government support regarding this, or is this something the school board has taken on themselves?
So as a school board, we are completely funded by the government. It's 100% local. The province of Ontario funds every aspect of our revenue. and they make available for us these capital grants for making improvements and so on.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's driven by our need to be operationally excellent and try and manage our utilities costs.
Mm-hmm.
Because for an institution with an annual $2 billion of funding, most of it is salaries and labor contracts,
Yeah.
which are set centrally by the province under collective agreements. Very similar to, I believe, your experience with the Metropolitan Police
Yeah.
institutional setting. And so, really, energy is one of the only cost that's really controllable somewhat. It's 2 to 4% of our annual budget, but really is the only aspect that we could do something about. And that's been the driver for this program to try and reduce these operating costs. We are a school board. Our purpose is to provide education and not to pay utility bills.
Yeah. And then what the percentage of, so the opportunities that you're finding, are they purely technology or are they also behavior? Is there a balance between the two? Is there more of the one or the other?
Yeah, that portion for us, it's based on where we're at our journey for energy and sustainability.
Right.
And I think that's changes from organization to organization.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for us, we are coming off almost like $120 million, $150 million of capital upgrades over the last 20 years. And we've done ESCO work. We were one of the first school boards to get into ESCO, these energy savings performance contracts
Mm-hmm.
for about $40 million of work to do capital upgrades. And then in the last 7, 8 years, we've done another $100 million or so of
Right.
further capital upgrades. So, the low hanging fruit, so to speak, is kind of gone because
Right.
you've already
Right.
picked up all
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
those. So, what we've done a lot of is to look at the other aspects of energy management. And I've the going by first principles, energy management is people, processes, and technology. It's a sum of those three
Yeah.
factors that go in. And so the technology aspects, we have a lot of technology in place. Yes, there's always newer stuff that you're always looking out for, like AI-based automation systems and
Mm-hmm.
energy storage and some of these newer tools that are coming out. But also on the people and on the people side, because it's no good having the latest variable frequency chiller at a school and have it run, have it commissioned and optimized if the folks in those buildings are keeping the windows open. Because somebody comes in on a day like today, I want to keep the window open, and now we're basically cooling the outside. So, to my mind, people are the most important aspect of this work in trying to get them engaged in every aspect of what we do. And we try it through a number of ways of, using public displays, electronic digital displays in public areas and
Mm-hmm.
atriums,
Yeah.
where again show you real time, what the building is doing at that moment, as well as social media. We have a very active Twitter account. If you go on Twitter, it's PL Eco Schools, and you will see 5,000 people follow us. So that
Brilliant.
is in one way a real time way of you following me
Yeah.
beyond the corporate mechanisms and tools of annual and quarterly meetings, because you can in one sense just follow along our work on a day-to-day basis. And then again, it's also working with the senior leadership to try and set the tone and have them talk about this thing at their annual kickoff and regular CEO reports and meetings
Yeah.
at the board level, to try and really get people to buy in and to collaborate in this work, because I believe a lot of our savings do sit in that social engagement aspect of our work.
You may have mentioned this, but what year are you in your journey? How many years have you been doing this now?
Almost 24, 25 years.
No, for the schools.
Yes, almost 24, 25
Oh,
years.
really? That long?
Yes, like most Ontario institutions are quite mature, especially in this government university. I used to work at a university.
Yeah, yeah.
Universities have been doing this thing for 40, 50 years because they have central plans and
Right.
they're trying to manage it centrally. Uh, this school board that I work at the moment, we've been doing it for almost 24, 25 years. Kind of
Wow.
kicked off with that whole ESCO movement
Yeah, yeah.
in the early 2000s, and then it's a continuous journey of putting in place a system, which is what we are bringing it in is to try and have uh, a system in place that we have targets in place to achieve. We are measuring our performance to those targets with our meters at an interval basis on almost a daily basis.
Mm.
And then on a regular cadence, quarterly level, annual level, we are reporting on on our performance against those targets, trying to look at our lessons learned, what worked, what did not work, and and to further improve that process. It's you could call it continuous commissioning,
Yeah.
continuous energy management, uh, which is trying to look for ever more improvements.
Do you have a net zero target that you're heading towards, and how close do you think you are on some of your properties?
We don't have a corporate net zero target, and that's really a function of our sector that we sit in, the Ontario
Hmm.
school board sector, because really our funding is determined by the provincial government, and we haven't had a direction from them for a
Right.
net zero type direction. Uh, but overall, it's been like we are 38% lower from where we were at like
Yeah.
eight, nine
Significant
years
values.
ago. So we are measuring our performance. It's not just
Yeah.
putting in technology and hoping that it's doing what we think it's doing, because what we found as a result of our experience, and it kind of goes back to your post around finding the relays being jammed.
Yeah.
I found fans which we think we schedule them to come on, uh, but actually the fans go off when they're scheduled on, and they come on when they're scheduled off,
Right.
because the polarity of that command on the building management system was reversed.
Right.
And uh, points where you're thinking that we are controlling the lighting inside the building, we're shutting it back, shutting it off at the end of the day when nobody's in the building, but actually it's turning off the boiler plants.
Right. And the
So
lights are
those
staying on.
exactly, and causing heating, cooling complaints, and so on. So
Yeah.
it's been a journey to continuously commission
Yeah.
our building systems to make sure all these technologies that we are putting in place are actually doing what we are asking them to do.
Yeah. Where do you think your challenges are now? I know your first challenge is going to be making sure all the existing systems are still controlling and working. So recommission, keep it in line, realign. So we've done the reviews, we've done the reduce, and we're constantly realigning the system and keeping that realigned. So where your challenges now, obviously, apart from doing that.
I 100% agree with your point there on recommissioning. We have a process in place to do exactly that. That every major project that we are doing, every new building that we are building, that we are having the same performance. Because in a large portfolio like these, you would see like there are lots of people involved,
Yeah.
and with construction guys or maintenance folks, there are lots of different silos that we're all aligned in the same direction. So that is a more immediate thing that we continuously work on to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction with commissioning, with continuous commissioning, continuous monitoring. And the other aspect is to uh, a lot of organizations say that energy and sustainability is everyone's job, but in reality, it's typically the energy manager or sustainability guy's job.
Mm.
And the other challenge is to try and actually make that a reality, that everybody is engaged with this work, because to my mind energy management is really at the end, at its basics, about the work that we do with this energy. In terms of, we use energy for lighting, for heating, for cooling, for plug loads, and so it's really engaging the folks, the end users in this work. Because if I can get them to close those windows when the air conditioning is on, or to fix the thermostats, that a single unit of energy that I saved there, it gives me multiple of savings on my utility bills,
Yeah.
because you have transmission conversion losses
Yeah.
within your system. So it's trying to really bring that consciousness around sustainability and energy with every single person in our organization. Uh, and to do that, we are doing, like I said, we're doing a bunch of technology work to try and keep it front and center, but also training and development in organization to try and engage people at all levels.
Yeah. I really liked what you said in the beginning about you're doing all aspects. So you're not only doing energy management, you're procuring the energy as well. You've brought that together, and that really is refreshing for me to know that other organizations and experts like myself are doing that, because it's important. No point managing that cost and the consumption if you don't manage the cost on the other side regarding getting that great deal. You have to balance both of them. And if you don't do both, or if you do one without the other, there's a problem, you know. So how have you managed to achieve that regarding the procurement? Because there's a different skill set there.
I think it really goes back to having a good sense of the energy demand. And this data kind of tells you
Right.
the profile of usage of electricity, and when I say energy, I'm talking all commodities: energy, electricity, natural gas, water, some oil where we don't have gas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really getting at the demand profile of these commodities. And we have a very strong track of that, like how much we use at a portfolio level, at a building level throughout the year, monthly. And then after that, it's trying to address each commodity based on its procurement processes. Electricity is our biggest cost within our portfolio,
Yeah.
and that is another aspect around having certain buildings under different rate structures on spot market, and procuring commodities centrally, having
Yeah.
the right rate structure in place, which is driven for electricity in a lot of cases by time of use.
Yeah.
At what time of the day are we using it? And that is where the utility incentives are also geared towards, for example, peak demand reduction and so on. It's trying to get at those in that aspect of it. Uh, for gas usage, the hottest commodity in more recent months, because of what's happening in Ukraine and the gas situation.
Yeah.
It's trying to stay on top of our gas consumption profile, which is for us is really the winter season, and trying to look at how much we need, and then procuring it under a procurement strategy. Like many organizations, we do a ladder type strategy. So we have more certainty in the more nearer future, and then as you go out, you leave a certain portion on the market,
Right.
and hope to have the best of price certainty and budget certainty, as well as good pricing on the market.
Got you. So you sort of buy the base load and then you flex the rest of you. Right.
Correct. Yes.
Brilliant. And then what about water? Do you procure your water in any way? Is that market in Canada open?
No. So for a water commodity, we really buy from a local municipality, which is making that water available to us.
Yeah.
And really, the only tool we have there is to try and reduce our consumption. And over the COVID period, because in the last 2-3 years, a lot of this work was remote, because you can use this technology. The metering technology is remote. So my team, we were remotely able to track the water consumption and isolate the cases where we were using too much water.
Right.
And you could find the valve. We could find those valves which were failed open,
Got you.
and places where we did have some water cooled equipment, which are supposed to be completely out of our buildings, but in a portfolio, 21 million square feet of all ages, like a 100-year-old building towards more, you do find legacy equipment which is hidden. And that's what you can pull out from our water meters. And there's nobody in the building. How come we're using 2,000 liters of water per hour, and what's driving it?
Yeah.
And isolate and fix those valves, or take out and retrofit with air cooled or something else, and they make for really quick paybacks on update or retrofit initiatives.
It's quite, I'm going to make a point here. Every time I've asked you a question, you've always come back. And do you know what the bottom line of that answer has been? Data. It's so important, isn't it? And I know that's my favorite terminology is data and measuring. But, we talked about water and, procuring it. Well, no, we're not going to procure it because we can't, because it's done locally with the local suppliers. So you're managing it. You're using data to understand how it works, how we can reduce it. So and then when I talked to you about your challenges, you talked about data, using that data to help you with your challenges going forward. So everything's got a common denominator. And I asked you about procurement. Again, you talked about having all that data in place helps you procure and have a strategy. So, but you've had many years of actually doing that with the organization, haven't you, and putting that in place?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is really I'm speaking from the experience of being proved wrong again and again in the absence of data. And it goes back to these experiences I mentioned. You think your fans are running, but actually they're off.
Exactly.
And they're cooling the outside and so on. So having that experience, if now I believe, like, if I could tell something to myself 10 years ago, I would have said, get metering in place immediately. Don't think about,
No.
that this is just a meter, this is information, what's the payback on this thing, and so on. Because the buildings are complicated now. We have so much new technology in place, and having good data helps. It's like a superpower. I have a 5-person team. I simply cannot, and doing 280 buildings, and it's not. I know there's a rule of thumb in the past that somebody in one of your shows mentioned around having a person per $1 million or million
That's
pounds
me.
of.
That's my saying.
Yeah,
£1 million equals an energy manager, basically.
So we are definitely understaffed according to that
Yeah.
metric, because we have 30
But
million.
£1 million equals a energy manager. But if you've got all the data in place and it's doing all the right things, you could probably reduce that ratio, can't you?
And that's exactly what we've tried to do. Try and
Exactly.
fill in those details.
Yeah.
With data, and that's what we do from a portfolio level.
Yeah.
Look at our performance, energy, cost, our footprint, carbon footprint, and then take it down. Try and make it more actionable, because that portfolio number doesn't really tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And essentially, for any energy person or sustainability person, you're really paid to make a difference and try and do something about it. So we take it to the facility level, building level, continue using the meters, and then once we look at that data, uh, essentially what we do is we look at the periods when the building is unoccupied, when nobody's in the building, and that I think works for most buildings other than maybe hospitals and some of the 24/7 buildings, because most buildings otherwise are unoccupied at some time at the day. And what we focused on was the periods when they were unoccupied. Look at what the profile is. And if buildings are using too much energy at that period of time, we go and look into our building automation system, look at the trends to find out what's causing it. So it's an ongoing process of trying to drill in deeper and deeper until we get to the root cause of that consumption. and it's if somebody's put it on hand or bypassed their automation system, or we have a leak somewhere in the system, that we try and make it as actionable as possible to
Yeah.
try and do this thing early and quickly.
You mentioned earlier about the students getting involved heavily and you're teaching them. Is this now on the curriculum for the education board? Have you created a class for this to help them going forwards? Are you
So
educating them in this as well?
this is with what we're working on at the moment.
Right.
So we have done some workshops
Brilliant.
on energy. I think we call them Energy Manager 101 for students, and we've had strong interest from students and teachers, because really sustainability, energy, you can tie it into almost any subject, and not
Yeah.
necessarily the quantitative skills that one would imagine. But you could use it really in many different ways, and let creativity be the guide for this work. And this is what we're currently working on, trying to look at ways on how these tools can be further integrated into curriculum across our school board,
Yeah.
in that we are providing the our students, our end users, really the tools to be the superstars of the future.
As any of these students left the school and started a career possibly in energy or connected, do you know if that's ever happened?
Yes, I know quite a few. Like some of our students are like they have NASA internships, and
No, that's amazing.
and like they've done advocacy at the municipal level for our local municipality to declare a climate emergency. So true leadership is really about trying to make a change happen.
That is
And
really commendable.
and
Really
you
is
have these
amazing.
young students who are truly leaders in sustainability, in making the change happen. And like I said, they get it better than adults,
Right.
because adults are have there's a change process involved, both for the building owners, from the business staff and the people who run these institutions. Uh, there's a change in processes and the mindset. That's a continual process. But the students, young people, they already understand these things. They're already familiar with the technology and the new things that they can do with AI and
Yeah.
optimization and some of these things with communication and social media. So it's brilliant to see some of the things that are coming out of our students.
This is our future. These are going to be the future energy experts going forward and making a difference. We've tried our bit, but these guys coming forward, guys and girls, I should say, the new eco warriors going forward are going to be the ones that really make a difference. And it's great actually seeing this. I envy your position there, seeing these students getting hold of this data and making it happen. It's amazing. I bet you love getting up every morning and going to your job, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's basically like I get proposals from our students around using EVs and charging stations, and we have a few of them, of looking at EVs as a way of charging our buildings and running thermal
Wow.
stations and cooling. And that's kind of, I think, what's really coming out. It's beyond the traditional
Yeah.
mindset of an energy manager, which I think really comes from the this field, particularly in this geographic area where I work in. The way I learned energy management, a lot of that material came from the 1970s,
Mm,
where we had a energy supply crunch,
yeah.
and because there was a rapid drop in energy supply, you had to drop the demand
Yeah.
in a rapid way, and that basically meant that this mindset around on freezing in the cold and the dark, and that kind of mindset around energy conservation.
Yeah.
And now where we're at now is we are solving for a fundamentally different problem, in that energy consumption in itself is not a bad thing. It's the cost and emissions of it, which is what we are trying to work on. So it's both supply and demand side that we are working
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So that enables new innovative solutions. For us, supply side, we have 21 megawatts of solar on our roofs that we are selling to the grid. So that's a revenue stream for us, as well as an educational thing for our
Yeah.
students. And also on the demand side, we are looking at lighting, heating, cooling, plug loads, AI, some of these. So what it does is it opens up newer ways of doing this work now with energy storage and
Yeah.
net metering and so on. So that is, I think, to me personally, is the most exciting thing is to solve these business problems uh, in using these technologies in newer and better ways, and really being innovative in the application of these technologies.
Yeah. This is an amazing. I've just rushed home from London. I thought, oh, I've got to jump on this call. I didn't know how this call was going to go. I never research it because I really like the conversation. And this has been a really amazing conversation. And thank you for coming on today. So it's come to that stage of the podcast where I like to, you've been listening to my podcast, you know where I'm going with this. So it's come to that stage where I'd like to put you on a spot here to our audience today. Is there anything you can give back to our audience as a takeaway to help them on their journeys?
Yeah, I would say achieving energy management excellence is really a continuous process of having a good target, measuring your performance to the target, reviewing it on a regular basis at the highest level, at the board level or senior leadership level, as well as lower levels, looking at lessons learned and making continuous improvement. Because sometimes you will not be able to achieve the targets.
Yeah.
But the next year, maybe you do overachieve the targets or the future intervals. There's no real silver bullet, but it's really this process that has to be in place and a dedication to the long game. And it's not this work does not need one to be a genius, but it just needs one to be persevere in this work and have the right practical experience,
Yeah.
as well as the knowledge of the systems, the building systems that are in that you're working with.
Yeah. It's knowledge plus common sense, isn't it? That's the equation that I'm applying to energy management now.
Yes, like I've written case studies. I have something coming out this month for the AE Association of Energy Engineers magazine, the International Journal for Strategic Energy and Environmental Planning.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a case study of the work we've done here.
Right.
And trying to show the work that we have tried, and maybe we've done something wrong, and people can look at what we've done and do things better. Because I have had experience of energy projects which actually increase energy consumption. And that's something which senior management not always understands, that doing this thing well is a nuanced way, a nuanced process of good design practices, good project management, good construction, and good operations and maintenance. And that is why you need to have a superstructure of a management process, which is a continuous cycle. I think you have a 4-step way that you advocate for, and the 4 R's, I believe you call it.
That's right.
And that is exactly, I believe, is the right way to do this thing, rather than just look at one-time, big capital expense or one-time projects.
I'm going to put you on a spot even further now, because you've inspired my mind. You've done all this work and you're talking about continuous work. Okay. And that's why I like continuous learning, lifelong learning. It's lifelong energy management as well. What is there for the future regarding your estate? What's your plans in the future?
So at this moment, we are trying to lead our facilities with sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to do all aspects of our work in the way we run our facilities, the facilities management process of maintenance, our operations, and so forth, as well as the end users. And to my mind, it's like a Venn diagram. If you can think of 3 circles, one circle is labeled energy management and sustainability. Another circle is labeled your end users and building occupants. And the third circle is labeled maintenance and operations guys. And it's the overlapping
Yeah.
areas of the circle which would give you the longest, most resilient results. And that is kind of what our focus is continuously, to try and make lives better for all of us,
Yeah.
and have this thing which, so it's not just me, the silo of, whose job it is to manage the
Yeah.
budget, but all of us pulling in that same direction.
Which is collaboration. And now I like the word of collaboration, bringing everything together, all the people together. Do you have technology people within that as well? Would you put them on like your suppliers or service providers, that they're in that equation amongst there as well, aren't they?
Yes, because technology is it's such a leverage
Yeah.
tool. And it's, again, you said the word collaboration. That is the most important word to have in this work, because some of that freezing in the dark thing was because of lack of collaboration
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being very single. So that collaborative aspect is crucial. And that's the other aspect of my work around communication, about getting buy-in, about continuously speaking the language of my stakeholders
Yeah.
at all levels, be it at the senior executive level or my labor unionized workforce stakeholders that we are continuously communicating with, to ensure that we are providing the best service to all of our stakeholders.
Yeah. Well, Shahid, amazing conversation. Thank you very much for coming along and sharing your story with us today. I'd like to say thank you to the energy experts that are going to hear what you've just said. It's very inspiring for myself to hear what you're saying as well. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Paul, for this conversation. I don't know where time flew, but really, I
Oh,
think the one thing I learned the most was, anybody doing this work, one should always be talking to other people doing the same kind of work.
yeah,
Don't try to, because somebody else would have figured
exactly.
something out that you've worked on. And
Exactly.
this is how one learns and one develops oneself. So thank you very
Yeah.
much. A pleasure talking to you.
Please, Shahid, you and your family stay safe in these times.
You too, Paul. Thank you.